So let's look at the reflection process. There are many models that teachers can use to support the reflection process, but they all essentially follow the same pattern. They are always about cycles of action. The basic cycle is plan, do, review. And because they're cycles, they all are iterative, or in other words, they repeat on themselves time and time again. Plan, do, review, plan, do, review. So what would be good would be for us to look at a cycle, a little bit more detailed cycle, and try to understand it. In this cycle, we can see that it is iterative, and really the starting point can be anywhere. The planning phase before teaching takes place. This is where the teacher is preparing, thinking about the content, and reflecting before teaching actually happens. And this can lead into the acting phase, the doing part, or in other words, the actual teaching in the classroom. And then following the cycle round, after teaching, the teacher needs to review what happened, to think about why certain things happened in a particular way, how they happened, what were the consequences, and most importantly, how could the insights from this sort of experience be used in future lessons? What have they learnt? What has the teacher learnt? What could they do now in relation to what happened before? And then there is a part of the cycle which is about collecting information. That could be about asking the students for feedback. It could be about asking colleagues to come and watch you teaching to give you feedback. It could even be about you watching other teachers in their classrooms so that you can consider how they're approaching their teaching. And this leads into a questioning and analysing phase, where you're actually posing questions for yourself. What happened? Why did that happen? How did it happen? Who was left out in the class? Who succeeded most of all in the class? What could be improved? And this whole process then leads back into another planning phase, ready for teaching. So you can see the reflective cycle there is iterative, and it leads into a best practice approach. So collecting information can be talking to children, talking to colleagues, even talking to parents. It can be about observing students in the class. It could be observing other teachers. It can be having teachers observing you and giving their feedback. It could even be about videoing your own teaching, or taking an audio tape and listening or watching those things over and over again. Certainly collecting information could include looking over the lesson plans for the lesson and looking over other people's lesson plans to see how yours relates to theirs. And certainly looking at your lesson evaluations. If the students evaluate, what do they say? If you evaluate, what were you thinking at the time when you filled out the evaluation? And question and analysis is about looking for a solution in order to correct a problem, which is very often considered as single loop learning. If it takes a wider perspective, looking at bigger questions, and looking at how theories are being used or applied in the classroom, this is considered as double loop learning. It could be about asking questions of changing perspectives and asking why things happened. Planning is about developing the hypotheses and using the strategies to actually apply in the classroom and test out the results. It's very much about asking, well, so what? If I do this, what's the result? If I don't do this, what effect will that have? Acting and doing in the classroom is testing your assumptions. Do they work? Don't they work? Things can go wrong, and failure is not a failure. Failure is a learning opportunity. And it is an opportunity for the teacher to say, okay, now what? Now what is next? Now what can I do? Reviewing is very much about reflecting on practice, reflecting on what has happened after the event, asking the question, well, what did happen? And Van Manen poses this in terms of hierarchical levels. The first level he talks about is technical reflection. This is the actual practice, the teaching, the skills for teaching, the pedagogical activity that takes place in the class. At this level, teachers are concerned with purely the technical aspect of being in the classroom, how they're talking, how they're presenting, how they're interacting with the students. Practical reflection is the next level. It focuses on the learning experience of the student. It goes beyond that technical rationality aspect and starts to investigate and question what is going on in the classroom, what learning is taking place, and how is teaching affecting that learning. And finally, there is critical reflection. This is the highest level of reflection that you can achieve, and it focuses on what knowledge is of value and to whom that knowledge is valuable. At this level, teachers are not simply concerned about the goals and the activities and the assumptions that underlie those goals and activities, but the larger context of teaching and learning, the bigger picture of education. And it is very much connected with the teacher's beliefs, values and assumptions, the ethical and the moral issues associated with teaching children in schools.